Welcome to this Inside Ag special. I'm Hunter Funk. Crops, they impact a farmer's bottom line. They feed millions of people in Idaho, the United States, and across the world. Gem State farmers produce a diverse selection. So today, we're exploring a handful of those crops and their impact on the ag industry. As Idahoans, we're used to hearing the phrase famous Idaho potatoes. But this year, the spuds weren't flying off the shelves like they used to. So we went to the field to find out why fewer acres are being planted. For generations. How long have you been farming for?
Well, my whole life. I've been farming my whole life.
The Blanksmas have worked in this southern Idaho soil.
My family's been in this area for the last 38, 40 years.
Growing beans, alfalfa, wheat, and of course, potatoes.
These have been out of the ground for about 5 days, 5 to 7 days.
But his generation is now facing growing pains.
Potatoes this year we're down in acres along with everybody else about 5%, so we're right around the 520 acres of potatoes this year.
That's about a 30% drop compared to 3 years ago. And it's not just this farm. Across Idaho, potato acres are shrinking.
Demand, it's strictly a demand issue. Domestic demand is down. Our export demand is also slightly down.
The forecast is that Idaho potato acres will go from 315,000 last year to 300,000 this year.
70% of America's potatoes stay in America. Sean Ellis with the Idaho Farm Bureau Federation says this will be the smallest acreage since 1952.
Most of Idaho potatoes are grown for the frozen processing industry. The big three processors this year cut back on their potato contracts, so they go out before planting and they sign contracts with potato growers to grow a certain amount of potatoes. Well, those contracts were cut back in some cases pretty significantly this year, and some growers were zeroed out altogether.
With inflation, Blanksma says fewer people are eating out.
And so it's kind of made your frozen French fries or your tater tot, seems that they've kind of become a luxury item, which isn't good for our industry.
His farm is adjusting by planting more edible bean seed, but finding another crop likely won't be a big moneymaker.
Well, unfortunately, right now, there isn't a good market in hardly any crop that's raised in Idaho. Wheat, all the commodities, wheat and corn, are down. The edible bean seed and commercial beans have taken a hit. Mint has taken a hit. You name it, crop prices are down.
While these russet Burbank potatoes can store up to a year.
So they've been in here since September. These are going to go to the frozen market and one day become French fries or tater tots or hash browns or whatever they want to make with them.
Predicting how much to plant each year is difficult.
The problem with potatoes is they're perishable. I can't keep them forever. Corn and wheat, beans, we can keep those for a long time. We hope that we can do a right size planting every year to meet the demand. We don't want too little and we don't want too much. It just hurts our business. If we can flatten it and try to be as stable as we can with our market, it will lead to long-term success.
Did you know Idaho is ranked number 2 for hops production in the United States? An industry that was thriving before COVID now has hop growers in our state making changes, cutting acres and managing overproduction. One Idaho hop grower walked us through the rise and recent fall of hop demand and what it means for the future. Over in Wilder, you'll find rows of towering trellises where hops climb toward the late summer sun.
So as they grow, which they have done this since the 10th of May, they've reached the top and then they fill out and finish their growth for the season. As you can see, these have bloomed, and that is what turns into the cone, and the cone is what holds the oil, and that is what the production of hops is about.
They're grown for one purpose, flavoring beer.
So it's all based off of oil content and oil production.
And for the last decade, business was booming.
I was able to start growing hops approximately 12 years ago, and there was an incline in demand for acreage. Since then, we have leveled out, and now we're seeing a decline just because of many different things that have happened in the world with COVID and war and inflation.
Those global events hit home here in Idaho, America's second largest hop producing state.
60% of the hops in the U.S. are exported. So there's a major 3-state growing area, which includes Washington, Idaho, and Oregon.
But global supply chains aren't the only issue. Growers say what people choose to pour in their glass is changing too.
And there's also been a drive from the administration to be more health conscious, as the younger generations seem to try and be more health conscious. So I think alcohol is one of the things that we'll see a decline in usage.
When beer sales slip, so does the need for those oils, leaving farmers with more crop than the market can handle.
We had a good run for 10 years, but now we're in a spot where we have overproduction, and so we're all having to cut back on our acres and hopefully clean the system out of the overages.
Part of the shift, growers say, is generational. Today's younger drinkers crave variety and often skip the 6-pack altogether.
I think that the younger generation isn't quite as brand loyal. They're willing to try new things, and they want to experience different forms of alcohol, which could be seltzers, it could be fruity malted beverages.
Though there are signs of hope in new markets.
Well, hops are still being used in the non-alcoholic beers, which is wonderful because it is one bright spot that we have seen.
With harvest approaching,
the last week of August and runs through September. We try and be done by the 25th to the 30th of September.
pretty standard from your traditional row crop.
Yeah, it takes a long time because this is very labor intense.
The focus now is on finding balance, matching what's grown to what's actually consumed.
Just hope that we can normalize our production and be able to follow the trends and produce accordingly so that we can pass this on to our future generations.
While fewer acres may be planted, Idaho growers say their commitment to the crop and the industry has not changed. But they say if you're feeling festive for beer or non-alcoholic beer, drinking them is a great way to support your Idaho farmers. Well, coming up, we are in the colder months of the year, but think summer for this next crop. Earlier this year, we went on a watermelon farm as they prepared for harvest. How watermelon producers know when it's time to share their fruit. When it comes to summertime staples, there's one fruit that usually ends up in the cooler or on the picnic table. It's watermelon. But before they hit the produce section at the store, they go through a harvest that's fast-paced and hands-on. We caught up with one of the largest watermelon growers in the Northwest about that process, which, to be clear, is no picnic. In the Hagerman Valley, watermelon harvest
We had a warmer than usual spring,
came a week early.
which ultimately leads the crops to grow a little bit faster. And so we started record early for our company on July 3rd this year.
Which means the melon gets an additional week of sale. But how do they know when it's time to harvest?
We have what we call a cutter that comes through, checks the watermelon for ripeness, and then cuts the stem on the ones that are ripe and ready today. So here are the watermelons that the cutters have decided are ready to go. And so we like to cut them open every so often and do a quality check and make sure that they look good. They are really good quality this year.
Once they determine which melons are ready, they put them belly up so the next crew can begin.
They pick the watermelons up and they put them on a conveyor belt, which then puts them up onto a trailer. And from there, they're transported from the trailer to the packing house.
It's a labor-intense crop. They harvest 600 acres worth of watermelon. It takes about 4 rounds spaced out a week apart to finish a field. That means from start to finish, a single field can take a month to pick.
It's all done by hand. It's a lot of really hard work. And we're always really appreciative to our employees who are willing to come out and work hard in the 100-degree heat, throwing watermelons all day.
Then it's time for these melons to roll to the packing house, where the trucks unload.
We have a great resource here of the natural spring water that the Hagerman Valley provides. And we're able to put the produce in that. It cools the produce and then conveys it along to the sorters that pick it up. sort it out according to size, and then we can pack it in the bins.
The average time from farm to store is about a week, but here they say it can be as soon as 1 to 2 days. In 3 months, 2,000 semi-loads of fresh produce will be shipped out across the Northwest.
Portland, Seattle, Salt Lake, Boise.
So since we're talking with the experts, how do you pick the best one at the grocery store?
Tap it, and if you get a higher ringing sound, that's an indication that it's not very ripe. If you get a really low, hollow thud, that's an indication that it's overripe. So you're looking for a nice medium sound.
They're not just tapping melons. They're up 100 acres this year in watermelon fields, so they're also tapping into even bigger markets.
Putting our name out there for more than just potatoes.
Watermelon is in season during the summer, so in the warm months when fresh watermelon is on the shelves, be sure to keep an eye out for that Hager melon sticker. Right after the break, an Idaho farm wants to elevate a veggie known for making your plate healthier. We're going to show you Asparagus Fest and how it's thriving at Treasure Valley Farms. While this veggie does not take up a lot of land in the Gem State, one grower is making sure it leaves a big impression. From the field to your fork and maybe even into your ice cream cone, we look at a crop that isn't well known as potatoes, but this summer it had its own festival to make sure people do know about it. It's a stock market most of us don't think about. While asparagus used to be a bigger player in Idaho fields, today,
it has declined a lot in recent years just due to cost and things having to increase in price. It's hard to compete with other countries with such a labor-intense crop.
Despite the high labor costs, fierce international competition, and shrinking acreages, here on this Idaho farm, asparagus is still thriving.
We are now one of 2 or 3 producers left in Idaho.
At Hawaii Produce, what's kept this crop sprouting? Well, it's a mix of passion and innovation. The innovation comes from this packing line.
The line that's behind me and that you'll see parts of is extremely advanced to what we used to do even 5 years ago. Everything was done by hand, and now we use the same amount of people and run double the shifts, but our technology sorts, sizes, and even bands our bundles of asparagus. So we've had a lot of change in technology and labor.
They've also become more competitive with labor by increasing pay and relying on the H-2A program, which allows workers to come up on a visa to work for a while.
And without that, we would not be able to do asparagus.
Idaho's climate and soil also gives asparagus growers a seasonal edge.
It is an area that allows us to have early crop, which kind of fills in this window between California and Washington, which is our biggest competitors in the U.S., and it allows us to get into a market that Mexico and Peru aren't in either.
To help keep the crop visible and viable, the farm started something new.
I realized that agriculture was not as well understood as I thought it was, and so I wanted to do something to educate, but in a fun way. And we finally decided that we were going to just take the leap and do an event, which is where Asparagus Fest came from.
The festival is complete with asparagus ice cream, bread, pizza, even asparagus tamales. The goal of the festival is to teach people where their food comes from, to shop local, and
I want to spark creativity. There's so many things that you can do with the local commodities that are produced in our area, and we don't always think outside of the box. Asparagus ice cream and asparagus pizza is not something you would think of making, and so be creative. Try to use your local items in new ways.
now it's not a crop that Idaho heavily relies on, but that continues to diversify the ag markets, and it's become a specialty crop. They say if you want to see more local produce in your grocery stores, just ask your grocery store for it. Coming up, fall is peak harvest season, and in Idaho, farm to table is a possibility for consumers. We went on a tour to learn more about the people behind the food and what kind of care they put into their product. Cattle ranches, grain mills, fish farms, even orchards and creameries. September is peak harvest season in Idaho. We not only want to highlight the food that's created, but the people and places behind it. We hit the road with the Department of Ag's Idaho Preferred program for the Fall Harvest Tour. Our road trip from Boise to the Magic Valley brought us here first. G+ Ranch.
Angus herd of cattle.
A living legacy rooted in generations of hard work.
Guess I should tell you, I'm Celia Gould. I'm the third generation on this ranch. Our home ranch, my grandfather came in 1906 on a boxcar from Rocky Ford, Colorado. He stole away on a boxcar, and he and his brother came out when the Perrines and the Goodings and all of the Buells, Frank H. Buell, brought the water to the desert and turned this into what you see as you drove here.
The ranch helps fuel Idaho's beef industry and feed families across the country, producing for agri-beef.
We kind of outshine some competition in the fact that every time you're going to eat that steak, you know what to expect, and that's what brings people back in time and time again to our commodity brands.
They've been partnering with family ranchers like the Goulds for decades and pioneered Wagyu cattle in the Northwest.
And it's just kind of humbling knowing that this is really where it all starts. And it all starts with independent families.
But it's not just the cattle they're raising out here.
I'm generation number 3, and the most important crop we grow right here is the generations. So we're hoping we've got lots more generations to stay in the business.
I'm Zane Gould's, Celia Gould's grandson, and what I normally do around here is help out my dad and work with people named Fabi and Dryson.
My name is Maddie Gould, and I enjoy the moving cows and the horses bit of the ranch.
She will go out and help gather cattle, and those are 18-mile days on horseback, and she gets the job done. So she's the real deal. We've got to have somebody that wants to continue, and it's not an easy life. It looks like an easy life. It looks pretty glamorous oftentimes when you see the cattle out on the nice green grass and that, but you don't see what goes on behind the scenes that are the hard days. That being said, I wouldn't trade it for any other life. It's the best life I could hope for.
Our next stop, Thousand Springs Mill. And Tim Corney grows and runs the certified organic milling facility.
We grow beans, ancient grains. We got corn goes back a couple thousand years, popcorn, and we grow it 8 miles away. And then we harvest it. We come and clean it, polish it. We put it in for retail, and for some wholesales. We send some product over to Japan, Korea, and Taiwan. Some of our organic wheat goes in soy sauce. And then we warehouse packaging for Albertsons and Winco and a lot of major brands in Warehouse 3.
So right there, that's about 3,000 pounds of kidney beans that came out of the field that we're getting prepped to go clean.
We also make alcohol mash for their extra grains that don't go into high quality flour and bread flour and other products. That extra wheat is going into regenerative certified alcohol brands like Farmer's Gin and American Harvest. I think that what we need to do is kind of adopt the European style food system. They have less preservatives, higher quality grains, and they put that first.
Corney says they don't use pesticides and plant sunflowers for the bee population. Next, we went to Riverence, a fish farm, for an aquaculture facility tour.
We do about 27 million pounds of rainbow trout a year. We manage everything from egg to distribution. So we have 4 brood facilities, 3 here in Idaho that ship eggs out to our farms that grow up.
They are working to revamp the trout industry, as it hasn't been as popular over the years, and are competing with cheaper fish from overseas. Their goal is to make it flourish again, and say people are already chomping at the bit, as they've seen strong growth over the last few years. And behind it all is Idaho Preferred, working to build relationships within the culinary industry and connect them to Idaho producers.
So we promote, we connect, and we educate Idaho producers to help them scale their marketplace. But really importantly, we help consumers and others in the community understand where their food comes from.
There are so many products in Idaho that you might not know are grown here. We've talked about watermelons, we've talked about the orchards, and of course hops, so many things. You just have to talk to some farmers to get to know what we grow right here in Idaho. We're back after this. Well, thank you for joining us for this Inside Ag special. Crops drive Idaho's economy, and learning where your food comes from makes for a more informed consumer, and you get fresher food. You can find more of our stories at ktvb.com under the Inside Ag tab. And question for you. Do you have an ag story that you want to share, or maybe your family wants to share, or your best friend's brother wants to share? Well, send us your story idea, insideag@ktvb.com, or you can text us at 208-321-5614. That's 208-321-5614. We would love to hear anything that can highlight our producers and farmers in the state of Idaho. Thanks for watching this Inside Ag special.
Continue with us and watch free now on the KTVB Plus app everywhere you stream.